There is a kind of silence you don't find in spiritual retreats, nor in books, nor in moments of rest. It is a silence that appears only when the body is pushed to its limit, when the cold cuts through the air and the world seems to narrow until it fits inside your breath. Wim Hof discovered this silence, and the most surprising thing is that when he arrived there, he didn't find fear. He found clarity. Today, you will understand why extreme moments reveal parts of us that we spend decades trying to access, and how this same portal can exist within your own life, even if you have never stepped into a frozen lake. There are moments in life when the body speaks before the mind understands. Moments when an ancient sensation awakens, as if something inside us said, "This has happened before," and you survived. But for many adults who have walked for decades carrying silent tensions, this internal dialogue becomes muffled. The daily noise, the repetition of the same emotions, and the automatic routine make the mind drift away from the body, like two old friends who still live in the same house but barely talk. This is where Wim Hof's experience enters. When he throws himself into the meeting with extreme cold, he is not just challenging his physical limits. He is recreating a kind of primitive environment, a territory where the human mind historically relearns how to reorganize itself. In the cold, there is no space for superfluous thoughts. There is no space for unfinished business, old hurts, projections, or inner noise. The cold slices through the mind like a blade and reveals only what is essential. And this is exactly the silent crisis of much of the audience between 35 and 70, the loss of the essential. Life becomes filled with roles, commitments, expectations, heavy memories, resentments that were never named, to the point where a person no longer recognizes their own inner voice. What makes the cold a portal to clarity is not the pain, not the discomfort, not heroism. It is simplicity. It is the raw force of nature reminding the body of what it already knew and giving the mind back the structure it lost over the years. When Wim Hof speaks about the inner silence that only the cold awakens, he is describing that instant when the body finally quiets the noise and allows consciousness to return to its true place. And it is precisely this search, the search for an inner place where things make sense again, that accompanies so many people who have spent decades trying to endure more than they could feel. But there is an even greater question. Why, even without ice, without snowy mountains, without extreme plunges, do so many people feel that something inside them has cooled? Why is there this sense of emotional exhaustion, of living on autopilot, of not belonging to one's own life? There is a point, almost invisible, where pain transforms into lucidity. Wim Hof discovered this when he realized that instead of fighting the cold, he needed to breathe within it. And this is the beginning of change, when you stop resisting what you feel and begin to move with what life is showing you. The promise of this video is not to teach breathing techniques, nor to turn the viewer into an extreme practitioner. The promise is to reveal how the human body, your body, holds doors the mind has forgotten how to open, and how these doors can return clarity, presence, and meaning, even after decades of living with accumulated emotional weight. For Wim Hof, the cold is not an enemy. It is a teacher, a strict, direct, non-negotiable teacher, but profoundly honest. When the body faces intense discomfort, it accesses ancestral mechanisms that were dormant. The breath changes. The focus narrows. Consciousness distances itself from distractions and moves closer to what is essential. It is as if the mind said, "From here on, only what truly matters remains." The body understands the cold. It recognizes the stimulus. Modern life, on the other hand, creates stimuli the body does not recognize. Demands, deadlines, comparisons, absence of pause. No one was biologically born to deal with this for decades. That is why so many mature adults feel they carry inside themselves an exhaustion that's impossible to explain. It is not laziness, it is not lack of motivation, it is accumulation, disconnection, repressed emotional silence. When the body is confronted, the mind cannot run to the future nor hide in the past. It is forced to exist in the exact second in which the breath happens. And it is precisely this state, so rare in modern life, that initiates clarity. Wim Hof realized that when the initial pain of the cold is crossed, there is something on the other side. A space of calm, a space of order, a space where the body stops fighting and begins to cooperate. Many people spend years seeking spirituality, self-knowledge, therapies, inner journeys, and all of this is valid. But in certain moments, the answer lies in something more primitive, rediscovering the body. There is a silent truth that is rarely spoken. When we disconnect from the body, we don't just lose health, we lose identity. The body is the first home of consciousness. And when this home becomes stifled, tight, tense, filled with stored emotions, the mind begins to wander without reference, like someone walking through a neighborhood they no longer recognize. Wim Hof did not find clarity in the cold by accident. He found it because the cold does not allow masks. It cuts through the surface and reveals the deep layers, the ones many avoid for years. Small traumas, old tensions, unexpressed feelings, all of this becomes stored, compressed, tightened in regions we almost never feel consciously. But the cold awakens these regions. It is as if a cellular cleansing begins to happen, where forgotten parts of us come back to life. The cold shakes old emotions, and paradoxically, this restores our balance. It is the same process as when we remove dust from a room that has been closed for a long time. First, everything flies into the air, but then the space finally becomes breathable. There is a point at which the cold stops being an aggressor and becomes a mirror. The body realizes, I am here, I am alive, I can endure this. This deep recognition, almost ancestral, opens an inner space of emotional maturity. That is why so many people, when facing extreme moments, not only physical but emotional, report experiences of lucidity, moments in which everything seems to align for a few seconds, as if life reorganized itself. In Wim Hof's case, this state wasn't a miracle, it was physiology. It was biology rediscovering its own axis. When the body settles after crossing through discomfort, the mind enters a kind of gentle expansion. It is not euphoria. It is not enlightenment. It is a mature clarity, an inner recognition that says, I exist, I feel, I can. For adults who have spent decades avoiding their own bodies, whether due to emotional pain, exhaustion, routine, or simply because they never learned another way to live, this state is profoundly transformative. The silence that emerges is not empty, it is a full silence, full of lucidity, full of perception, full of presence, and perhaps, for the first time in a long while, full of life. Wim Hof's journey is not about ice, it is about return. Return to the body, return to the breath, return to the part of us that never gave up, but was just stifled. When we observe Wim Hof's path, we are not looking at a man challenging nature. We are looking at someone who found in nature the only language capable of speaking directly to his pain. And perhaps that is why his story resonates so deeply with people who carry decades of inner silence, because within each of us there is something that asks for return. In everyday life, we do not step into frozen lakes, but we enter emotional situations that freeze parts of us, unresolved conflicts, accumulated losses, wear and tear that never received a name, frustrations that aged alongside us. All of this creates an internal climate that sometimes feels as cold as the water Wim Hof faces. But here is the central point. The body does not want you to fight against the cold of life. It wants you to cross through it, to breathe within it, to return to yourself. For many adults, The greatest daily effort is not in external tasks, but in avoiding what hurts to feel. It is an invisible, exhausting effort that consumes years. The cold in Wim Hof's narrative is everything we try to avoid: intense sensations, deep emotions, old vulnerabilities. But when we finally stop running, something unexpected happens. The mind reorganizes, emotions find a place, the body stops calling for rescue. What Wim found was not a miracle. It was a reunion with himself. And this reunion does not require frozen mountains. It begins when you listen to what has been repressed for decades. The hope that is born from this process is not childish, not fantastical. It is mature, steady, quiet. It is the hope that comes from the body when it realizes you have finally returned. And the cold teaches us exactly this. When you truly breathe, when you remain present, when you cross through, the problem doesn't disappear, but your perception changes, your strength changes, your relationship with yourself changes, and in this place of inner silence, life begins to make sense again, even when it remains difficult. If this message brought something to you, a recognition, a memory, a pause, then perhaps there is a silent invitation happening within you, an invitation to breathe differently, to rediscover your body, to slowly return to yourself. If this journey makes sense, stay here. There is much more to come. If this story awakens something in you, let it continue. Breathe, explore, allow yourself to return inward.